Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Close to my face.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Joyce. Boy, all the regulations sure changed in a hurry, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. We're very excited.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, things are things looking good. We expect to have a great summer, so
Yeah, we're
fantastic.
hearing reservations are really big in Breck anyway, so.
Yeah, I know. Let's see how we do.
Jason, you're looking sharp, buddy. I need to get a haircut too to keep up.
Oh, Jason, I think you're on mute.
There you go.
How's that?
Better. We can hear you.
Right on.
I know Alexandria was away this weekend. Do we know if she or Taj were? Oh, here she goes. I think I just got to get Alexandria on. Hold on one second.
Is Taj out of town?
I don't know.
Dick, did you get a chance to read through any of Chief Baird's info?
I did. I have not read the most recent batch. No, did you get through it? Have you read it?
I read through some of them and did a little bit of research on the authors, but I haven't finished it up.
Cool.
But that's the problem with statistics. You can kind of do whatever you want with them, but
Yeah.
it's fairly interesting. We'll have to talk more on that later.
Yeah, I'm hoping to read that stuff this week and then let's circle back for sure.
Okay.
What's it about?
I don't want to kind of get into this too much until I do a little more research, but
Sure.
we had an interesting conversation at the PAC meeting and a little difference of opinion. And I want to research all the statistics before I make any sort of broad stroke decision about it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It was just
No, I didn't
curiosity.
feel put on the
Yeah.
spot. It's just, I haven't done enough of my own research to make any sort of comment at this point.
Okay, great. Also, I wanted to point out to everyone that vote by the Summit School Board to update their social equity policies. If anybody's been following that.
I haven't been following it.
They made some updates.
I've
which-
been following
yeah.
it. It's got a very mixed review, but I think a fair amount of support. But there's certainly some detractors.
Mm-hmm. I think it's good that the conversation's being had. I'm just looking through the updates right now.
And I'll
Good
be
morning,
honest, just,
everybody. What's going on?
hey, Alexandria.
Hi, Alexandria.
Hi, how are you? How is everybody?
Good.
Excellent.
Awesome. I'll be operating with half a brain today. Um, I flew from Colorado into Atlanta on Saturday, and I flew back last night to watch my brother graduate. He graduated from Morehouse, so I'm exhausted, but I'm here.
That's great.
Yeah, and big congrats to your brother.
Oh, yeah, I'm so proud of him. But yeah, thank you guys. Is everybody here from? Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I
Okay, yeah,
saw
and
Taj, but
I just sent Taj the link. She says she's having a hard to Zoom right now. So I sent her the link. She should be chiming in here in a bit.
Yeah, Morehouse is a great school. I went to college in Atlanta also. I had several friends who went to school there. Fun
Oh
times.
yeah, it was such an amazing ceremony, and just like the energy, and everyone was beautiful and happy. It was honestly one of the best experiences of my life, celebrating him in that way and seeing everybody else collectively celebrating their sons and grandsons, and it was beautiful.
That's awesome.
All right, guys, I'm here. I'm sorry. So sorry.
Hey Taj, did that link I sent you, that's what you use?
Yeah.
It works?
I don't know why. I use Zoom on my phone because my computer is super slow. It's old. So I do like my technical work on there. But as
Yeah.
far as Zoom, I do it on my phone.
Oh.
And so with the link, it's always so like ridiculous to try to get on. I don't know why. It's a thing. So here we are. in
You're
the
here
flesh.
though.
I'm here. So thanks. Good riddance for that.
Do we want to start with roll call?
Sure.
Do it. Okay, so I call to order the Breckenridge Social Equity Advisory Commission meeting for April 19th. Is that right? Are we in April? Yes, I think so. 19th,
May 7th.
2021.
Oh, it's May.
May 17th.
See, I told you, operating with half a brain today. I'm already starting off. May 17th.
You're funny.
So, Taja,
Yes. She's here.
Jason,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Isara,
Here.
Joyce,
Here.
Carol,
Here.
Dick,
Here.
and Aaron.
Here.
Okay, so does the commissioner staff have any changes to our agenda for today?
No,
I,
to my knowledge.
Alexandria,
Yes.
I'd love to add just to have a brief discussion about the school board's diversity work. Just to kind of get a sense, is that a place we want to go? Or it's certainly something we want to pay attention to, because it's a big part of our community as our children are part of that school. So
Yeah, and I think what recently had just happened has made a huge shift. So it would be something good to talk about.
I agree. If we could add that to the agenda for today, that would be amazing. Honestly, I'm personally really excited about the fact that the motion was approved last Thursday.
Sure.
And I was on for the duration of that call. I logged off after like 2 hours and logged back on at like 10 o'clock.
That's great. Well, let's do it at the end, Alexandria, so we can stay on track for our other speakers and stuff. That would be my suggestion.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes. So yes, we're gonna add the advisory conversation at the end. So does anyone have any corrections to the minutes from our last meeting held at April 19th.
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second,
I'll second that.
Okay. Excellent. So is there anyone in the public who would like to provide public comment on any non-agenda items? We might not have anyone come in publicly, but I do know that we were sent an email from Anna Graves collectively. Did everyone receive that in reference to having a list of women-owned businesses?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
We do
And
have
I think was
4
it
attendees, by the way.
I think it was not only women but LGBT Q
was it?
plus.
Okay.
I think it was just that topic in general amongst women. I think it was LGBTQ plus as well that she wanted to focus on.
Okay.
And BIPOC.
So what do you guys think about that idea?
I think it's a great idea. I'm sorry to speak if anybody else had anything to say, but I just off the top of my brain, as I read the email, I thought it was a huge idea, but it brought me back to what Monica had said about kind of fundamentalizing what we mean when we mean welcome and what we mean by welcome to Breckenridge. And I think that's more of like a community detailed item that we need to make a bigger picture for first, and then those are going to be the details that we can implement in. That's my personal opinion. But that was my mindset going into reading what her ideology was regarding the email.
So the links that she provides are actually blog posts.
Mhm.
One is from a magazine and one, I don't know if it's the Tourism Bureau for Boulder. But I do wonder if the BTO would be interested in putting out a list, as far as, the right, and Taj, totally agree with your sentiment and that sort of thing. But I wonder if this could be like a, hey, BTO, we got this. I wonder if you'd be, or Summit Daily, I wonder if you'd be interested in posting a blog about these businesses, about women-owned BIPOC and
Sure. Almost doing like a
LGBTQ plus.
segment of almost I mean, that's a great idea. I just that was just my initial thought when I read it, and I was like, she's right in that regard. I just wonder also how then Monica was talking about how we need to make sure that if we're going to do these things and we're going to implement these things that they are accredited. Which I agree with you as well. So reaching out to BTO would be amazing. Summit Daily, awesome. But I want to make sure they're not just almost like almost like a day, Mardi Gras, oh, let's do this just a one time. It needs to be implemented into the culture of what she's talking about, if that's something that she's really, really talking about. So I agree with you completely in the same regard.
Yeah.
I'd also, do we want to broaden it from just women? And, we talked in council, Rick, what was that? Is it CDOT who has the accreditation of, what is the term for the businesses that fit that category? Do you guys remember?
Oh, it was something disadvantaged. I think disadvantaged was in the.
Yeah, basically CDOT has.
Disenfranchised?
Pardon me? They have some, they have a classification of businesses that, they're women owned, I think minority owned, and they've already done the work to understand how you get, accredited in that area, because it's not always, black and white. For instance, my business, my business partner of 38 years is a woman, and She started the business. And so we could easily say, you know, and she's never here. She's more the investor, right? She's the money person now. And so she's not at all involved in the operations, but, you know, we're women owned. You know, we also, you know, my right-hand person's a woman, both my general managers are women, but I don't have women well represented in my kitchens. So am I a woman? And you know, so I think we need criteria before we just jump in. I'm all for it, but I think we want to really kind of have some credibility with it. Now, if it's a Summit Daily article or something, they can take it anywhere they want.
Yeah,
but
most
if
definitely.
Urge the BPO to do it, or if we're going to have Town of Breck do it, we might want to look at some of the language in something like what CDOT's doing, if that works for us, you know. But there's no point in us reinventing the wheel, but we should probably have, you know, some kind of, I like the concept. I we don't want to leave people out, and that's, you know, inclusion is such an important piece. And so I encourage us to learn from somebody else on some of this.
And I also think that if we were to take it to like a Summit Daily or a BTO, you know, take it to them, we would have to honestly consider the businesses that may not want to be identified as, hey, I am an LGBT owned business. I am or a woman owned business. I don't want them to have to think that is going to provide them with more, because in essence, it shouldn't matter if it's LGBTQ plus owned. It shouldn't matter if it's woman owned. So I would wonder if those specific businesses want to identify in that way, if in a business perspective. Does that make sense? So, you know, if you were to do an article on, I don't know, House of Vibes that just opened up in Silverthorne, I know that person that owns that company is LGBTQ plus, but in that regard, I'm not going to out that person. Outing is a huge thing. I'm not going to say that person wants everybody to know that business is LGBTQ plus ran just because, you know what I mean? Now, if that person individually wants to represent that way, that is not their voice, but I don't want to give that voice to that business. Just like I wouldn't want someone to say to me, hey, Taj is an African-American woman, you know, so you should support her. You know what I mean? We should already be doing that. But, you know, I always do also understand the whole entire point of the Social Equity Commission and why we're here in the first place. So I'm just saying there's two sides to the coin, and the fact that I don't want to out a business unintentionally and have them be a crutch in a way, because that can be perceived very interestingly in some regards.
I think the way to address that is for us to create whatever spectrum that we're going to have around this issue and allow people to apply, or if they like, hey, this is the list through the BTO or whatever avenue we use, would you like to be a part of this? And then that way, you know, we're not stepping on anyone's toes or, you know, because if someone says, hey, I know Majestic Mountain Tile and Stone is a Black owned business, a Black woman owned business. Would you like to be on the list? I would be like, yeah. But someone else might just say, no, I don't want to be categorized in that way. So I think that we're putting the power in the people's hands by offering them the opportunity. Okay, well, I like that. Well,
that's basically what I mean is I want them to have that voice and that choice at the end of the day. I want the option. We can provide the option, the opportunity, but at the end of the day, I want them to be able to commit to that, because I just don't want to misrepresent what we're trying to do here. You know what I mean? And I don't want to tokenize it in a way and use it as like you know.
We provide the opportunity. Yes, I love that. I'm writing that down. Okay, well.
One other, I guess, thing to add to that.
Sure, Jordan.
Do we also add businesses that are friendly to those communities as well to the list? Outside of just owned businesses? Because people who aren't necessarily owned, but friendly towards and concerning and values of those communities might also want to be included as well.
I think that's important. I think that's really important. You know, it's a good. That's a good.
You know, to say that, you know, hey, we're not on, but you know, we support. You know, everyone and love everyone as well. So I think.
Oh, I love that, Jordan, and that's honestly really inclusive, because we're incorporating the businesses that might be white male owned or whatever, but that business is saying, hey, we love and we welcome everyone here.
Mhm.
So it's, oh God, that's powerful. Love that.
Yeah, allyship is really
Yeah.
powerful. I remember what
Yeah.
last July, whenever the Black Lives Matter thing was really, really prevalent in a different context. A lot of businesses put like Black Lives Matter or things like that outside their window, you know, things like that. And they weren't Black owned or anything. So that's a really good call out, Jordan. I think that's important as well, because we shouldn't just limit it to specifically, you know, LGBTQ plus women, African American, minority owned businesses, but also people who want to participate in the allyship, because we all know that that is one of the most important things when it comes to change.
So maybe we can have the two sectors where it's, you know, Black owned or women owned, and then we have allyship owned or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. Not that that was, should we close public comment? Not that that was really
Alexandria?
public comment, but.
I think Jason and Issa both have comments, but I also have a comment about that too, but I'll let Jason and Issa go first.
My comment was just that I want to make sure we don't try to go too fast or overextend our reach. We are still organizing our direction as a committee. And I think that we should support this initiative, but I don't know that we should necessarily spearhead it. So I want to make sure that we get our commission on track before we take on too much. I just want to make sure we stay focused. We still have a lot to do just to get the ball rolling.
And I agree with Jason. And one more thing about the allyship. I know, I can't remember if I've mentioned this before, but I do think it would be helpful to our community. And again, you know, Jason, when it's the appropriate time, to have some resources for businesses to implement their own policies around equity and inclusion. And it would be great if, you know, perhaps when we can do that work or create some of those baseline policies that could be adapted by businesses, perhaps that could be part of that process. And Dick, I liked your comments too about, you know, we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but we want to have a process to it. And, you know, perhaps once we have a policy or something that can be adapted by businesses, maybe that's part of being part of that allyship, is like, okay, you have these practices and policies set into place, and, you know, that could be part of it.
Okay, what I wanted to mention is that I feel like I get the point of creating the, you know, LBTD, whatever, and the women's, but at the same time, it doesn't sound very inclusive either, because inclusion is supposed to be everybody for everybody. So that's kind of also made me think, so we should do also the Latin ownership, you know, committee. So I feel like it's something that has to be inclusive to everybody. I don't know if that will be into the small businesses committee or something like that, because it sounds like these businesses needs the projection because they're small. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're a woman, if you're lesbian, if you're gay. I feel like the point of everything is make everything together, and creating these little things can make it feel like we're supporting, like, yeah, we wanted to be part, but at the same time, we wanted everybody to be included. And making that, it might sound that we're like, I mean, yes, we're supporting, but we want them to be a part of the whole, not just a single out. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Sorry, I don't want to talk. I keep talking and I feel like I'm like hogging it. But to both of your points, I'll address Jason's first since it was first. I have a curiosity, and I guess for Erin, like around what specifically do we feel as though we are maybe taking on too much, or you know, maybe not like growing enough or developing enough in certain ways before we can do other things. And because in my mind, I feel as though we are able to function on both, and to recognize both in the interim, but still continue to progress whilst honing in on, you know, agendas and our mission statement and things like that, but still actively taking on things in the community. I don't see how that would be inhibiting for each other. As far as Issa's comment, I completely agree with you. And I think that the whole point of what we're trying to do here is to make things equitable, so that way it is inclusive. So just like we could add, you know, to the LGBTQ plus, to the women's owned businesses, Latino owned businesses, Hispanic owned businesses, that we can all make those equitable first. And then that way it is all inclusive. But right now, unfortunately, things are not equitable. And so that's why we're doing this, to create inclusion and equality, in a sense, through equity, if that makes sense to everybody. And I'm done talking, so whoever wants to say anything can go.
Question for you all, to Jason, I guess to Jason's concern and your obvious interest in this. Is this something you would like staff to start exploring on your behalf, so that the commission isn't getting kind of down in the weeds on this, but staff could do some initial research on it and then kind of bring back to you what we find, as far as who might be a partner and that kind of thing?
Yeah. My point, just to conclude what I was trying to say, is simply, we haven't even 100% established our goals, our targets, and our structure. So I just want to be careful how much we take on immediately. I mean, I would love to solve all the world's problems, but this committee isn't equipped to do that. So I want to make sure, and it may be that we include LGBT plus groups in that. However, we haven't even established our whole parameters yet. So I just want to make sure we get organized, we get trained, and then we can pick our targets, and then let's try to stay on that, because it's easy to get overwhelmed and to get off on too many tangents. It's not that I want to ignore it. I just want to make sure that we stay on target for what our group is trying to do.
100%. So what would be some parameters and some things that you are focusing on?
We're still getting trained. That's why we get a mission statement, and that's why we get what we're going to do established. And I'm not saying we're not going to include that, but we're not even there yet. We're still getting our group together. We're still all getting on the same track.
And I agree very much so with Jason. And even with this topic, I would love to have a running list of topics that we want to explore when we're further down this process. I fully agree with Jason. Thanks for putting the work in for the mission statement. I do want to explore that later. Also set up our parameters. So I don't know that we necessarily need to explore this immediately. It clearly merited a great discussion, but I'd love to have a running list where, when Alexandria and Shannon put the agenda together, maybe when we're further down creating our own parameters, we're not losing sight of that topic, but we revisit it.
Yes.
I just wonder how us not being as solidified parameter wise inhibits us from continuously still being active. That's just like where I'm, like, my gray area is. Like, I understand that we don't have like the fundamentals and like everything like written out on paper, but how is that conflicting in a way? And the only way that in my mind, that I would think that would be conflicting is if we're spreading false information and we're not actively moving in a way that would represent the Social Equity Commission, which we already know the definition of those by what Monica has put together for us. So I totally agree with what you guys are saying, and I completely am for that, obviously. But I just wonder why those two things have to happen linearly when they cannot happen together. That's basically what my confusion is coming from.
If I can respond to that, unless Jordan, are you gonna, do you have a thought on that?
I thought that Shannon had like the perfect middle ground. If that was, if we're gonna do both and have some of the staff start to research it for us and start to compile that list, and then we can look everything over later, review it, and that way at least it is still getting worked on, to Taj's point, and we can be kind of passively putting together a list, and then we can all review it and talk more about it in discussion later once there is something put together, but currently having nothing. But it is just us kind of talking about it. But again, if that is something that could happen without us actively having to input anything into right now, I wouldn't see the problem with having a list compiled. And then when we review it later, if anyone else has any other people potentially they might want to add to the list or other companies we should reach out to, then we can address that later, and hopefully we'll be a little bit more settled with our own direction, because then we can apply that to the list that we're looking at, if that's all right with everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Jordan. I think that's a way for us to stay on track with our own foundation building, but also to be proactive in the things that the community expresses to us that they want to address. So I completely agree with that. So Shannon, in terms of collecting data, what information are you thinking about collecting?
Well, I think first I'd like to figure out who our partner would be, who the best partner would be. And then we could probably take a look and see if there are other communities who have created similar types of lists or done blogs or done, stories about businesses that, kind of fit in some of this criteria that you've discussed to start. And then the other thing, we have a really good list from one of your previous sessions where you did some brainstorming about the things that you were interested in. And I think you guys just need time, right? Your agendas are full, and you have 2 guests here today that are going to talk to you. So you haven't really had time to look at your mission, look at that list of brainstormed priorities. So, maybe we talk about having your next meeting or, a couple of meetings where we go longer than an hour and you give yourself some time to really dig into kind of setting your priorities, setting your mission, and doing, all that work. And by your next meeting, we'll have met with Monica again to talk about what our plans are to move forward with the equity blueprint and equity lens, which should also help frame some of your discussions.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I don't know if we officially close the public comment, but we'll go ahead and we'll close that at this point. Does the staff have any discussion items?
I don't have anything other than what was in the agenda.
Okay. All right, so can open the agenda. There's no formality. Okay, so what would we like to discuss with the agenda today?
So Alexandra, I think you have Larissa O'Neill here today, and she wants to talk to you a bit about the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance's Barney Ford for what they've done on presentation on Barney Ford.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just got a message that said Dick wanted to say something. Dick, did you have something to say and we passed you?
No, that's fine. I think Shannon and I think the subject has been wrapped up, but that's fine. No big deal.
Oh, Dick, we value you. What did you have to say, darling?
What I say, I mean, I really, really, really appreciate Taj's advocacy and passion, and all of ours. This stuff's so important. I don't want anybody to get frustrated because it is slow. And I remember Monica, in numerous occasions, Monica has said, hang with this. We got to go slow first and to go fast later. And I think that's what we're doing, but we are doing stuff. I mean, I look at how much the town of Breckenridge is translating in terms of our website. We've gotten our website translated to Spanish. We've done most all of our messages and everything, where we as a council are bringing up, equity and inclusion issues in our discussions. We're not there yet, and we've got a long way to go, but things are happening. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged, and I want to encourage the passion and the voice. The voice is really important to push us, but we do need to realize we've got to go slow before we can go fast. So I don't mean to be redundant, but thanks.
No, well, I appreciate
you
you
for that.
saying that. And that's so nice of you to say that, because I'm in the space where I get an idea, I execute. So it's like hard for me to kind of like take it slow and go in a more intentional space. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I need that
encouragement.
too.
Yeah.
Because I'm one that I'm like, all right, let's get it done. And like I don't want anybody to think that I'm combating them and I'm disagreeing, because I'm completely not. But like in my mind, that's just the way that I am. And that's why we're all here. We all have a voice. So it's really just it's balancing. It's balancing for me. And it really is important to hear every voice.
Well, big time, because when this whole thing first started, I was your voice and Aaron was the voice of reason. So it's started long ago.
There you go.
And we all switch sides and everything else, but that's why we're a group and a commission. We work together, we come out together and help.
Definitely.
That is so
I don't want you guys to think that
fantastic.
I'm like being aggressive. I'm just like, let's get it done.
Yeah, I'm like that too. Okay.
It's great.
So, Shannon, what were you saying? We were about to discuss Monica.
Actually, you have Larissa O'Neill here from the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance to talk about their Barney Ford presentation.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning. You're so beautiful. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Wow. I managed to even brush my hair this morning, which doesn't always occur. But I just wanted to start by saying thank you for giving me a little time today. I know you all have a very full plate, so I'll try to keep this brief. But I'm Larissa O'Neill. I'm the director at the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance, and we manage many of the historic sites and tours around town. One of which is the Barney Ford House Museum. So this morning, for just a few minutes, we're gonna kind of step back in time a little bit. Wanted to fill you in on some work we're doing related to Barney Ford, and also kind of a milestone opportunity coming up in 2022 that I wanted to get your feedback on. I'm guessing a lot of you know a bit about Barney Ford, some maybe more than others, and we just had a documentary come out from Rocky Mountain PBS about Barney Ford. That's an hour long, very thorough, really well done. So for those of you who haven't seen that, I would encourage you to check that out. We have our museum in town. We reopened June 1st. And I had planned to sort of spend a few minutes giving you my version of the Barney Ford story today. But if it's okay with you, we actually recently received a letter that had been written by Barney Ford back in 1848. This was discovered by a researcher and author who just wrote a piece for Forbes magazine about Barney Ford. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a couple minutes. Barney Ford was born enslaved in 1822, and this was a letter that he wrote to his enslaver in October of 1848. So bear with me. I'm going to read a couple excerpts from this letter. Sir, I never thought that it would be my duty to write you a letter of this kind, but of necessity I am driven to it. Sir, I have thought seriously and deliberately upon this matter, and have finally come to the conclusion that I am entitled to my liberty. Sir, you know that you have told me a great many times that I was as free as you were. Well, I listened to you, but I could not make it appear so to me. You say that you have to work harder than I do. Admit that. I ask, who enjoys the income of your labor? Can you say that I enjoy it? Or can you say that I ever enjoyed the half of what my services were worth to you? Now, sir, if I were as free as you are, why did you not pay me for my services? You could not have thought that I was satisfied with what you chose to give me. For instance, you have not given me a decent suit of clothes since you have owned me, which is now almost 5 years. And you don't like to see me have on anything to make me look well. If I could wear your old clothes, you would like me much better. There is another thing in consideration. In our travels about, you always, as is natural, want the best accommodation when you have it to pay for. Then if I am as free as you are, I should want the same. But I notice this, that you always try to get me on the floor in your room to sleep. And when a chance offers for me to get a bed, you will not let me have it if you can help it, as I have frequently heard you say that anything on the floor would do. And there is another thing. You have a way of calling me boy and Negro when before gentlemen. Now, I don't think that this makes you look any larger, and I assure you that it makes me feel much smaller. I don't think that I have done anything wrong in leaving you, but there is one thing. You shall not have to say that I stole your money and ran away from you. I have left you without a dollar in my pocket, and sink or swim, I shall depend on my own exertions for a living. I have served you faithfully for nearly 5 years, and now I can't show a dollar, and if I were to serve you 10 years more, it would be no better. So I will end there. That is just part of the letter. It was written when Barney Ford was 26 years old. He received no formal education, went on to escape, and became a very prominent businessman, civil rights activist, had his home here in Breckenridge. And you know, Barney Ford is one of our more obscure Colorado people in history. And it continues to amaze me because that voice, even in that letter, is just so powerful. And we're starting to see that change. But I think there's more that we can do to elevate his legacy, his story, especially in our world today. And this kind of brings me to this opportunity I wanted to mention. Barney Ford would have turned 200 in January of 2022. And we see this as a chance to really honor him in our community. This is a big deal for Breckenridge. It's a big deal for Colorado. And I would like to just kind of talk to you about that and what we are thinking, and hopefully get kind of the green light, thumbs up, and some feedback from this group. One of the things we've been talking about is establishing Barney Ford Day. He was born near the end of January. We'd like to do Barney Ford Day on February 1st, 2022, to kick off Black History Month. We think he would be a great person to start that month of celebration. And we'd like to do it at the local and the state level. We're getting some traction at the state level, but they won't make a decision on Barney Ford Day until much closer. But we need to start planning now to do whatever that event ends up looking like, and would certainly appreciate sort of kind of the endorsement from this group, a bit of involvement. I think that would add more meaning to that celebration if we proceed with that and make that more impactful. Beyond Barney Ford Day, we're also talking about doing a virtual tour of Barney Ford's museum. I've always wanted like every Colorado student to come visit the Barney Ford Museum, and I know that's not reasonable or realistic from a logistical standpoint. So we're working on a way to kind of broaden his message and do it virtually so that there is an opportunity for more students in our state to get to know Barney Ford and the meaning behind his story. We've had some other ancillary ideas, like, if snow sculpture happens around that time next year, early 2022, maybe there is a snow sculpture dedicated to Barney Ford that we could even do on the Barney Ford property. Barney Ford was also a very well-regarded restaurateur throughout Colorado. He served oysters in 1861 in Denver before there was a railroad even coming to Denver. So maybe there is an opportunity to even, serve his menu in some of our local restaurants, things like that. So, I'm not asking for anything specific from this group today. I just wanted to make you all aware of this being an important goal for us to do something important and meaningful in 2022 for Barney Ford. And just wanted to get your feedback if we are headed in the right direction, if you all think we should be exploring other ideas. And so with that, I'll pause, and just if anyone has any questions or comments, I would welcome those.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that letter, Larissa. And the first thing that comes to mind is, my goodness, he spoke so eloquently and so graceful. And I mean, it's especially everything that he was dealing with and the treatment that he was receiving, like that was really beautiful. And it's nice to have taken the tour and learned about who he was from Lee, and then to now hear some of the words and, kind of can hear him saying those. That is amazing. So thank you for sharing. I really support the idea of Barney Ford Day. I think it's wonderful. And I think it's honestly just a beautiful human tale about how someone can overcome any obstacle. I mean, this man did so much when he was classified as an enslaved human being, but he did not allow that to define him and to put him in a box to just be lesser than, right? Like he overcame so much, which is just really powerful. When I went, it made me feel like, what am I doing with my life? Like this man, so inspirational. So I'm fully in support of it. I like the ideas of like the restaurants getting involved and having a day. So when you think of a Barney Ford Day, like what does that look like to you? Do you see like a parade or like what do you think?
That great question. I have for a while envisioned something like even an event at the Riverwalk Center potentially. Could we bring some of the local schools to come attend that event? I think it's a Tuesday next year. So I always come back to sort of this educational opportunity for our children. You know, I've done Zooms with a lot of classrooms around the district, but I would love to, you know, have something potentially an event of some sort that the community could participate in. But that's kind of as far as I've gotten at this point.
I have oh, sorry, Jason. I just had a really quick question because I went to the museum with Alexandria a couple weeks ago, and I know that he had a couple of owners. Now, his original owner was his father, if I'm not mistaken, because he was a child of someone who was unfortunately raped by their owner. Was that letter written to his father, or was that written to the man that he was sold to by the other woman? Do you know enough about that to enlighten?
He actually references in this letter that it was someone who had you know, been his
Bought him.
neighbor for 5 years.
Okay.
So it would have been someone not his father. We think he potentially had three people.
Owners. Okay. Yeah, just wondering, just because like it's a very powerful letter, very powerful. So just wondering.
And I'll definitely share the full letter with.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm blown away. I only knew little bits about Barney Ford, and I clearly need to do a little bit more research, but I was kind of moved by that little bit that you read, and I simply must read the entire letter. Me personally, I can't speak for the committee. As I said, we're still finding our legs, but me personally, Jason Smith, I support as much as the town is willing to do. You have my personal support 100%. If you need help from me personally, I'll make sure that you get my contact information. I think this is really important, and I think this could potentially be the kind of thing to kick off what we're doing, because I think by February of 2022, we should have some stride. And I think this would be a great way for the town to segue into doing some of that stuff that I'd like to talk about, us being inclusive. And I think that the majority of people have no idea the history of Barney Ford. And from where I stand right now, like I said, I can only speak for myself. I think Barney Ford could be part of the bedrock that we base ourselves in. We could really use this as the reason why we move forward, because this is such a rich heritage of Breckenridge. This isn't someone somewhere else. This is amazing.
I appreciate that. Just having your support means a lot, and would love to kind of keep you all involved to whatever extent you're able to be.
Absolutely. What about you, Dick? What do you got?
Yeah, well said, Jason, and I'm in full agreement and support. Question for you, Larissa. Would it be historically correct to say Breckenridge is the home of Barney Ford?
We have the only location anywhere that has a home in which Barney Ford lived. So any space really dedicated to Barney Ford. We are the only place. He lived here in his 60s. He was older when he lived here. But yes, this is, you could say, the home of Barney Ford.
Okay, thanks.
but he was all over the place. You know, he was always moving.
Oh, I know.
So-
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the PBS piece is really good. So anyone that has not seen it, I would strongly recommend.
Yeah, that was amazing.
When I went to the museum and learned about Barney Ford, it almost kind of made me feel a little bit inspired as an African American woman living in Breckenridge. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. So actually, I really encourage anybody to go and just take the tour from Lee, or if Larissa, if you work there, take the tour from Larissa, because it really is, it enlightened me a lot. And you would think, you know, as an African American person, you just know all the history about all African Americans, but you don't. And so it totally enlightened me about my own history in a way. So it's a really interesting story of his story. It's a very interesting story.
Yeah, I would really, Larissa, I love your idea too about also making it like a field trip, a day where we honor him and allow the little youngsters in the area to walk through and have that tour, because it is inspiring, just across the board. It's a very uplifting story. Yeah, I appreciate you being here today, Larissa. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you.
Thank you all. Sorry.
Sorry.
Right.
I was just gonna say,
Go ahead, Jordan.
Starting with Black History, and during Black History Month is also really important too, because celebrating our local heroes is really, I think, important to localizing Black History Month, because a lot of it is, you know, our national heroes, but so many places have local heroes that are amazing that just aren't celebrated or recognized. And to do something like that to start out Black History Month here in Breckenridge would be amazing. Having said that, you know, Breckenridge is his home, so it'd be like a great way for Colorado, Breck, all of us to kind of get that started.
Yeah, I agree, Jordan. I think that so many people, because they don't have any personal, like they've never really, many people have never experienced racism. You know, you hear about Black History Month every year, but it's this abstract thing. So to bring something local, I think people can realize, oh, this wasn't just going on in the South. This wasn't just here. This wasn't just there. It wasn't just the people I've heard about. It was hundreds of thousands, millions of people went through this. And I think that a lot of people, especially those that are not minorities, will be able to grab a hold of Barney Ford and realize, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how pervasive this was. So that's one of the reasons I think he could really be the bedrock that brings us as the committee and personally into the forefront and get people to recognize how big of an issue this is. So this is huge. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the time, and we will keep working and hopefully working with you all on this in the coming months. So thank you again.
Yeah, if you could, I think I'll get you some information on my personal email, because like I said, I can't speak for the entire committee, but myself, if you need anything, just let me know. And I'd like to be more involved. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Okay, so now we have the outreach brainstorming with Haley. Hi, Haley.
So Alexandria, before you all get started, so your meeting should end at 10. So 2 questions for you. Do you all want to extend your time together and get through your time with Haley? Or do you want me to ask Haley to come to the next meeting? Because I don't want you to kind of short shrift yourself on your time with her and doing that brainstorming, which takes some time to do some brainstorming. So I don't know how you want to move forward.
Can we
throw that out there.
How much time do you need, Haley? Can we do a show of hands to see who has an extra 15 to 20 minutes?
I have extra time.
I was saying we'd do the digital hand raise, and then we'd know.
Oh, the digital.
That way we'll know who's got an extra 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 minutes. And is that enough time, Haley?
Well, if we end at 10, if we end at 10:15, that's still 20 minutes, and I think that's fine.
And I can always catch up later. I can catch up with Carol and Dick and read the minutes and all that good stuff.
Well, I'm good to extend.
Okay.
Is everybody good to extend? Yeah?
Okay, then
Cool.
I think we should get this, I think we should get one more thing knocked off our list and go ahead and meet with Haley today.
Great. And I
Alright,
think
Haley.
too, what would be helpful is I just really wanted to clarify that we're talking about how we're going to do outreach for this group. We can set up another time to talk about like equity and inclusion in all of the town's communications in general. That's a much larger discussion that I don't think we necessarily need to have today, but you know, keeping this discussion for time's sake really focused on how we're doing outreach for this group. You know, because I do think, you know, I am being very intentional about filtering all of this through other things throughout the town, you know, in our communications. And we can talk about that later in terms of a different meeting. But yeah, in terms of outreach for this group, I just wanted to kind of talk through some ideas that I had, and then also what you all perceive as the metrics for successful outreach for this group, you know, because we can certainly base our metrics on, you know, quantifiable versus less quantifiable things, you know, attendees versus emails that we're receiving versus, you know, general community sentiment, which I think all are important. But, you know, getting a sense of kind of what is our goal for how we are, you know, what, I guess my first question is, what would you all like to see in terms of, you know, what you would define as success for getting more engagement?
I think with the metrics, maybe it's hard initially to go after that. I think maybe the bigger communication strategies, and again, what we keep going back to is just getting our feet under us. And as far as strategy, if we really want to communicate what we're eventually doing and also solicit more feedback, input, involvement for the community. So my first question would be a more or less tangible goal, what this commission wants with our communication strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Tasha, you had
I'm not, ooh, I'm sorry.
oh,
Somebody
just
talk-
Tasha had her hand up, so I was gonna.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just discovered the feature, so now I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
cool. Anyways, for me, I agree with Carol 100%. I also think that I want to get a really, really solidified background of education, which is what Monica's been doing with us, but just really, really solidifying it so we really understand what the basis of our commission is and what we stand for. And so that way, when we are then going out into the community situation, we're able to really, really communicate and be on the same page. And so we're not kind of giving a different version of, you know, and being kind of very unanimous in that way. So our education, I think, really needs to be just really understood. And so maybe even having like a debrief on that and like maybe like a study course or something about that, I think is important to me because I know that some people just understand things differently and learn differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was gonna, oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, I was gonna say, you were asking for a metric. And I would say that that's why it's important we get our group defined so that if people want information about what our group is, they can read exactly what we apply to. So that it won't be this whole where everyone's reaching in and trying to say, can you do this? Can you do this? They could read something and say, okay, that does apply or does not apply. But then also, I think a metric for engagement is I'd like to see more and more of the community sitting in on our meetings. That would be a metric for success for me. And I know we've got very few, but if 3 turns into 30, that would be success. So that would be one metric, that we're out there and people know that these meetings are happening. So that's a metric we can measure. And then any engagement that we get is great. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, the only caveat I wanted to give is that I know this time is great for all of you to engage, but you know, 9 a.m. on a Monday is kind of hard for general public to log in and start, especially if you're working a different job. So my suggestion was actually going to be later that you know, we do a couple things like, you know, we do coffee talk with the mayor, coffee talk with the council, doing something that's just at a time that's more in general equitable for people. You know, if someone's working at a restaurant or a coffee shop or something, you know, in the morning, like they're not going to be able to tune in. But I do think it's important because this time works for everybody. But I was going to suggest maybe we sort of have monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, sort of like the listening session that we had at a time when people are more likely to be free.
I completely agree. I was going to say the same thing, because I honestly think that we need to take pictures of us collectively too, so people can see our group. Because one thing, I'm a visual learner, so one thing that I connect with and wants me to engage with the town is like when I see Aaron laughing over, coffee with the commission, or you know what I mean? Like, it makes me want to engage in whatever conversation they're having. So I think if we can have pictures of us and integrate that to your idea, like coffee with the commissioners or whatever, I think that would, like Jason said, to piggyback off of what he said, would be a good gauge for how successful we are with our public. I'm getting a text with our public viewership, really. Yeah, but I appreciate your comment too, Haley, because I'm just like, literally nobody cares because nobody's participating, and you're like, no, it's because it's Monday at 9 a.m. and I'm like,
yeah,
thank you, because I'm not thinking about it from that perspective. Yeah.
Isa, did you have something? You had your hand raised.
Yes, sorry. I was about to say that I feel like all this goes back again what Jason has been telling us all the time, that we need to kind of define how we're going to work and how we're going to do things to be able to move forward. Because I feel like everybody has said, I don't really, and at least myself, I don't feel like we really have something set the way we're going to work things out on how we're going to do things to be able to define ways to do things. If I'm not sure I've been explaining myself very well, but I feel that way.
Yeah, I definitely understand. Something that I was also going to suggest kind of along those lines that I think would be really good and has worked well for us in the past is when we do, kind of what Taj was saying, I would love to sort of write you all what we call an elevator pitch. So it's a 30 to 60 second explanation summary that you have in your back pocket, so that when someone asks you about the commission, you say, oh, this is what it is. This is what we're doing. And then it kind of gets everybody on the same page in terms of how you want to explain yourself. And then I was thinking, a good way to kind of go about this is when we do have sort of a mission and a vision, and that elevator pitch is doing a letter to the editor from the group. So we can set up photography for that as well. That won't be too hard to get a photographer and get you all, in person and getting shots. And then doing a letter to the editor to say sort of to the community, because, those have a lot of reach. A lot of people read those, and it's a way to say, this is who we are. This is what we're working on. This is how we'd love for you to engage with us. And, you'll definitely have to be prepared for some of the comments, but it will be a really good introduction, was one of the ideas that I also had. Go ahead, Taj.
No. Go. Jordan can go.
Oh, Jordan.
Yeah, sorry. You said everything I was going to say, but better. But yeah, just getting, as we've discussed a lot today, our mission statement together, and then just have, who we are, is just a reintroduction to the community, because outside of it, we've only been discussed in our creation, and then that was about it. Like, it was the application process, the creation of this committee, and then we've never really been, like, I guess, properly reintroduced with a mission statement to, that way, like, not only are we introducing ourselves, but we're also accomplishing Haley's task, as well as like telling people what we do, and how we're going to help our community as well. So it's, nice little picture, and, our mission statement, and I think that would be like a really clean introduction to the community, or reintroduction, I guess.
I love it. Yes. And also, Jason said, can we meet in person? I'm down. I don't know what the regulations are, or where we'll be with that when we can meet in person. but it would really be nice to meet all of you guys in person and to just be in each other's energy and exchanging these ideas would be amazing.
So I think that you all should be good to meet at your June meeting in person. I expect we would use council chambers for that meeting, and I think we can fit all 9 of you at the dais. We'll work on that piece of it. What will still remain to be seen, and hopefully we'll be really close this coming week, is to be able to have you meet in person and then also be able to Zoom your meeting out. So the public would be able to attend in person if they chose to do that, but we're trying to keep that virtual option for people who, you know, want to be able to watch, but they still have to be at work, or, you know, they're watching their kids or whatever, they can't actually be in chambers. So if you're all good with meeting in person, we will plan that for your June session.
Perfect.
What I was going to add is that I actually am facilitating for my other job, an equity and inclusion training, just based off of my own work and whatever. And I have an outline that I think is really, really good and really, really, what's the word? Information based, that I think that I want to send over to you guys, just for your own personal use, if you want to implement some of the learnings and the teachings from that outline in our next meeting, just to get everybody on the same page with a better idea of like what I mean when like with the basis of education, because I think that's where we should start. And I think that's what's going to get the town buzzing and curious. And that's also going to get us, help us hopefully get more aligned with what we stand for when we talk about equity and inclusion and like what we want to do as far as that is concerned. Almost like Jason sending over his mission statement. So I just was going to let you guys know that I want to share that piece of information with you that I had written, and you do what you please with that. So I'll send it over.
Yes, please. So Haley, I can't see anybody. You still here, darling? Yes, there you are. Was that what you wanted to contribute? Wonderful ideas. Did you have anything else? I know you're full of ideas.
Yeah, no, that was great. You know, the only thing I was gonna add is, you know, I think once we do get rolling on projects and stuff, I think it would be good to do sort of like a quarterly report that just lists out, you know, what you all have been doing, successes, what you're working towards, and we can kind of share that via a newsletter, social media, or however we want to go about that. And then, you know, I think also too, having that running list of resources that we've been talking for businesses would be good to just have for also the community. You know, maybe that's a continuously updated like Google Drive that people can check into. But I do think, you know, an outreach that provides sort of those resources is going to be a real value and asset to the community. So just I think that's a great idea, and we should, you know, start to kind of cull things for that. So anything you all see, you know, I'm constantly looking for stuff, but anything you see, just feel free to email me. I'll remind you of my email in the chat, but send that to me and I'm happy to start collecting all of that stuff as well.
What do you mean pertaining to collection of what data?
Oh, like resources, articles, information. If people want to learn, like, what does equity mean? How could we include this in our business? You know, those sorts of things, so people can have them on hand.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much. I appreciate you clarifying for me. Okay, does anybody have any more comments or questions for Haley?
Dick has his hand raised, so I think we could go to him.
Did you have something? Were you gonna say something?
Oh, my hand was just to let you guys know that I was going to send over that outline. It has like nothing to do with us specifically, but it is a lesson plan kind of on how to teach equity and inclusion. So it could be very potentially a really good resource for you guys and for us, just to kind of get a basis of where we're going, just since I've facilitated basically what Monica's done before, to kind of have our own little you know, outline would be kind of cool too. So that way we can always maybe reference it back if we want to.
Yeah, that's great. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Haley, my one comment, I think for all of us is, and I know you do this, but I think we all always want to be thinking inclusion when it comes to any kind of communication. You know, we as a community Haven't figured that out yet. I mean, it's a work in progress. So I think we need to think, how can we do a better job with each communication around inclusion? And, we've tried so many things as a community over the years and just always struggled with that piece. So I just think that that's kind of the overriding piece around communication, and it's a journey. It's not something where there's a silver bullet where we're going to all of a sudden figure it out. It's something that we've got to just constantly be working on, because communication is a powerful tool if we can get it out.
No, and I totally agree. And I think on the broader discussion, this is definitely going to be, every single town department, getting them more engaged with that and what that means. I mean, so for example, like just for y'all's background information, like we're doing an internal green team challenge where we're sharing information with people about sustainability stuff. And so what I'm actually going to include is about environmental racism and inequities and sustainability. So like even starting to just make sure we filter that all in and continue to work on our Spanish speaking stuff as well. And then also I think something that gets left out of this conversation a lot often is ADA and that compliance issue. And so we have some stuff with that with the website that we're working on, looking into some different things that just make all of our information more ADA compliant. So that's also a piece to keep in mind too. I know the Spanish speaking stuff is critical, but also, the ADA information too.
What's ADA, Haley?
Accessibility. So captions for videos, captions for meetings, that our site
interpreters.
Interpreters, that our site can be read by a program that, will read it out loud for people with vision issues, that sort of thing.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me know. Wonderful. And somebody said something.
It was me. I was gonna say, just to touch on what Dick said, to always focusing on inclusion. I think it's important for the group to realize, and this may seem obvious, but it helps me. I'm a very goal-oriented person. Like Taj said, she wanted to jump in and get stuff done. Alexandria and jump and get stuff. This is a journey and a path. There's no destination. We're not going to have a finish line where we're like, oh my God, we reached equality. That's not going to happen. We have to realize that we are going to always try to move in that direction, always strive for inclusion, but there's no finish line. So feel good that we're on the path, but we're not, the destination is to simply get better. So I wish we could have a goal that we'd attain, but I think it's important to realize we are all trying to move on this journey and go down that road.
I think the only way that we're really going to reach any goals, right, is we're going to constantly have to be celebrating the wins and the things that we accomplish. Make sure we have a task, have a solidified goal, accomplish it, and celebrate in that space, because it is incremental and it's not like, you're right, it's not a destination, it's not a finish line, right? So it is going to be challenging to quantify our successes, because it's going to be like a never ending road.
I'm glad that Dick brought up that we need to always focus on inclusion. That's the goal. Focus on it and solve it where we can.
And to Haley's point and Dick's point, Haley, you feel like we need to, you said you want to gather resources to explain equity. To segue to Dick's discussion in reference to the equity policy being accepted or approved in the school system, do you think that there is confusion about the definition of equity?
Yeah, always with certain people. It depends on who you ask. I mean, I think I think it's something even on the website we can just work on defining. There are some really good definitions of what that means. I think that, the difficult part maybe sometimes with explaining all of this is you've got some people that are way up here and some people who are way down here, and it's bringing some of these people up here to understand what this means, what the purview is. I think, any sort of any sort of maybe initial criticism or concern is people who are really curious, like what the purview is, you know? So I think explaining, like kind of circling back to what Jason said, like what our goals are, what we're working on, that sort of thing.
It
will
would
be
really
useful.
be nice if in the 30 to 60 second, what did you call it?
An elevator pitch.
Yeah, the elevator pitch, that there could be a brief definition of what equity is, so that the work that we're doing is synonymous with that definition. And also we're letting people know what it is we stand for and what we're working for, just to kind of help combat that confusion around the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll get a copy of the school district's equity policy, just so that we're using synonymous language, if that's what you all want, to just make sure that what they're communicating versus, I want to see how they're sort of explaining it as well. That could be helpful.
I actually have a whole training that I did for a school district on equity and inclusion that I can send over if you guys want me to.
Yes.
Because that's, I think, literally what we're talking about right now is like, we're always wanting to involve inclusion, but we need to understand what the definition is. And we need to understand how to get there. And that is through equity. But then what is equity? We need to get to equity to get to equality. What is equality? So like, it breaks it down, but we have to know what those things are, because yeah, our goal is inclusion, but we have to get there through equity, and then that's going to create equality and things like that. So I have a couple things of information that I can share with you guys that'll break it down and for everybody, even myself, and help really understand what those things are, so that way we will be able to move forward better.
Definitely.
Okay.
I have a little request. Yeah. So I obviously, me and Joyce are the only bilingual people here, and we are all on mind, everybody. So I will request for everybody, every time everybody talks and says some like ADA things or little stuff like that, be very specific with that, because like I'm a dental people. So you say ADA, in my mind is American Dental Association. And then I was thinking, well, maybe it's the American Disability Association. So try to be very specific with that, because, you know, it's a tons of different definitions that we can find for little teens. I'm learning a lot, and I feel like I need a specification on teens, because I don't quite get it right. Like when you guys talking and like, okay, what was that? And stuff like that. So just a little request for everybody when we talk in the future to be very clear and specific.
That's a great point.
Absolutely.
No, that's a great point. And the ADA is a great example of that, because it stands for the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's a civil rights bill. It's part of our constitution. It's a big deal. And it was a huge thing in the history of our country, in my opinion. And so, I mean, we throw it around, you know, like it's something we sue each other over, which also happens.
We do.
You know, I mean, but it is a really, really momentous event in our history of our country. To me, it's a big deal.
It is. Isa, I would like to say to you that whenever one of those misunderstandings comes up, please chime in and let us know, because
yeah, please do. I didn't know what I did.
Feel free to butt in and say, I need some explanation, because we may miss those. So please do that as often as possible.
Yeah, and I request to Shannon one of those emails. She said like it was a tons, like the whole list of thing, and I was trying to Google it, and I didn't even knew it was exactly the thing that they were trying to say to us. I was like, can we put in parentheses like behind the, you know, the abbreviations, what it really means, because Americans had a lot of abbreviations for everything, and so it's kind of hard to keep up.
and I didn't know, I don't know if you did know, but just to let you know, when we were talking about the LGBTQ+, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, and then the plus would be the other people that identify in that community, just to let you know, just in case you didn't.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have to log off, guys. Thanks a lot for being here, and thanks everyone for staying a little bit extra time. And I look forward to meeting in person.
Also, Jason, you gotta log off, darling.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys the information and let me know what you think.
So it is time for other matters. Do any of the commissioners have any other matters to discuss? I know that Dick, you wanted to touch on the policy that was approved this week in the education system.
And yes, and I don't think we need to spend time on it now. I just wanted to say it's a significant thing in our community. I think what the school board is doing, and I think the issues around their equity and inclusion work is certainly something we should pay attention to, and when ready, we should partner with. So it's there's a lot of transition in the school board right now, and we'll see what kind of where it all lands. But and we're also at an infancy, so I don't know if now's the time, but it's certainly something that we should keep our eye on, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and supporting them right now I think is very important because the school board is a collection of people that volunteer their time so many hours a week, and just to have been a part of the BOE meeting or the educational meeting this week or last week, I really felt such an amount of compassion for them for the scrutiny and some of the things that were being said to them, when these are people that are just advocating for the well-being of our children. And yeah, I just really feel like I kind of felt bad for them, how it kind of went. It was challenging to watch. Did anybody else happen the meeting?
Maybe I know Jason logged off because he had to leave, but I think it was great that he got the just ball moving on creating that mission statement that can really be somewhat of our North Star that we're moving towards. So I'd like to keep the ball rolling with that, and maybe during our meeting with Monica, we chat with her. I'm still a little unclear exactly what the next step is with our blueprint and lens, but with a little guidance from her, see if that mission statement is something that we can really start working with, honing in, or if we have a couple more steps and if we need to look a little more internally before creating that. But Jason's not on, but big thank you to Jason for doing that.
Are we able to speak on the school board in the situation that happened? Or I don't know how to be politically.
Do you mean like officially weigh in on it? Or?
Yeah, like are we able to do that?
We absolutely can weigh in on anything. We'd need just the consensus of the commission.
Right.
If that's something we want to explore, maybe we need a little more information to present to the commissioners exactly what was in the equity policy, and if it's something the commission as a whole want to support.
Well, and I think it takes a little more than that. I think we need to understand that the just kind of the broader situation, the role of school board, the history, the in-depth of it. I agree, and that's why I'm saying it needs to be on our radar, because I think we need to educate ourselves, and I think we can individually certainly support it, absolutely, but I think as a commission, I don't think that's something we can do quickly or rashly. I think it's something that's going to take some time and education, personally.
Mm-hmm. I think I would need a little bit more education before speaking on it on a commission level, but personally, I could speak on
it. Yeah, I read the policy prior to talking about it, because I don't like to just judge things off of the title. I'd like to be informed about what it is exactly that I would be advocating for. So I read it, the outline of it, and what the objective is, and what the kind of goal is with it being implemented in the school system. So I literally supported it on every level. And, that's why I made my public statement to support it, because I was well informed. So, cool. So, you guys ready to adjourn? Yeah. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
No, a second.
All right, you guys. So we're going to end our meeting for today. I love you all. I appreciate your time. I'm gonna go get in the bed now.
Love you too.
I'm gonna
Have a great day.
I love you
Before you
guys.
all
I'm gonna
go,
send over
thank
the
you.
outline. And just
Okay.
know that it's not based off of our social equity. So it's gonna it's not gonna look like our social equity outline, but it's gonna be very informative. So just give me whatever feedback you guys want and we'll go from there.
Yeah. And if anyone
and I'll
wants to
add-
grab coffee or anything this week, let me know. I'm free.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yes, Jordan, are you back in town? You're back in town. Good.
Yep.
Yeah, you're
Cool.
in your
I
normal
love
chair.
Your normal chair.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
all my
yeah.
like superhero posters behind me.
I can't see them.
Sorry, they're like all my
It's so
Marvel
funny.
posters.
Is that a gaming chair? Because it looks
It
super
is.
comfy.
It's a
Mhm.
gaming chair for sure.
Yeah.
And those headphones for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
There's a drone and a 3D
It is
printer over there.
A drone.
A drone?
Yeah.
That's
So I just
dope.
started filming with that yesterday, so doing some more truck stuff. But we are gonna
Oh,
go.
cool.
But again, I love you all, and if anyone wants to hang out this week, just let me know.
Thank
Absolutely. Love you
you.
guys too.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.